I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Donan, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch. Double Clutch.
Double Clutch Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, welcome again to the Double Clutch Podcast, WNBA edition. My name is Huw Hopkins, and we have a great show for you lined up today, where we are going to be chatting to the brand new head coach and GM of the Chicago Sky, Mr. James Wade. He's had a busy off-season, not only just getting used to his new team and drafting them and scouting them and signing free agents, but he's also been busy abroad as well. He's been an assistant coach with UMMC Ekaterinburg, and they won a championship. They won EuroLeague over there, and he's had a pretty impressive few months. So we get the opportunity to sit down with him one-on-one. He's just finished his first couple of days of training camp, so he's fresh off seeing some of his new players and figuring out what is going to be working for the team this year. So we spend some time discussing this year's team going forward, but we also dive into a few of the players individually, and also we start off the conversation by talking a little bit about his playing days and his coaching days before he even got a head coaching role. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. James Wade.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it's probably been a busy day for you and a busy couple of days.
Yeah, it's been really busy, but, a good kind of busy.
Good. And so how is training camp going? Is this your second day, the end of the second day?
Yeah, it's the second day. I just finished. They finished a little bit earlier, but it was a better day than yesterday.
Good. So progression then. That's what you want at this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the UK, the WNBA, where it's not the biggest sport, the biggest league in the world. So we're trying to grow that at Double Clutch a little bit. So I wanted to sort of delve into your history just a little bit before we get into the main crux of questions about the season for the Chicago Sky this year. You've been a player in Europe. You've gone all around the world as a professional yourself until you started doing more coaching. And you've played with some great players of the years, including Becky Hammon in San Antonio. Now she must be one of the best point guards to ever play in the WNBA. So. And you joined the team towards the end of her career. Was there much you were able to teach her when you joined as an assistant?
I don't know if it was much I was able to teach her. She was very coachable. She was a seasoned veteran by the time I got to her. I pick and chose my moments that you give a player like that advice and you just help them along the way, and you just try to be the best you can, just guiding them and getting them over the hump and at the end of their career. But we work great together, and to this day we have a wonderful relationship, and I lean on her today for a lot of advice. So she's a really good friend.
That's good, because she's doing a great job over in San Antonio with the Spurs organization these days. After you moved on from San Antonio yourself, you spent a year or two with Cheryl Reeve in Minnesota, who, she must be one of the best basketball coaches in the world right now. What did you pick up from her, and how did that help you prepare to become a head coach yourself?
Well, we worked together for 2 years. We were able to win a championship in that time. And the one thing you love about Cheryl is her intensity, her no-nonsense attitude and the things that she doesn't settle for. So, I was able to pick her brain about a lot of things. And it was a wonderful experience. And I treasure my moments with her. And we still talk from time to time. And, that's something that you can't take away. That bond that we have from going through a championship together. The one thing I appreciate about Cheryl is she gave me a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
At a point, I'm like, I don't know why you would give me so much responsibility. but she trusted me right away, and she leaned on me a lot, and I appreciate that. And I think that was she was one of the main keys in getting me ready to take on this job that I have now.
So what do you think that's going to be similar to your style then? Because I mean, this is correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your first year as a head coach, whether it's in the WNBA or in Europe. So what do you think your coaching style is going to be?
My coaching style comes a little bit from all the experiences that I have, not just the experiences with Cheryl, even though that's a big part of it. In Minnesota, I mean, my style is I have to be me. I can't be Cheryl. I can't be anybody else that I've worked with. And that's a coach that likes to spread the floor, likes to move the ball, likes to shoot the three, and likes to get up and down. I think I trend toward of the way basketball is being played now, with open space, attacking closeouts, and things of that nature. So, I mean, that's the most important part to me, I guess. So, but I think, me being a defensive guy, that's where you're going to see a lot of my concentration and focus go to.
How much of that did you pick up from Europe? Because obviously you played there, but you've also been coaching there the past few years with UMMC, Ekaterinburg, and won a title this year. What's the main differences between coaching stateside and coaching in Russia?
I mean, I think the main difference is how much the ball moves.
What more so in Europe, do you think?
In Europe, yeah, because you don't have the dominant. I mean, even though I'm saying that from a standpoint of in Ekaterinburg, we had dominating players, but you have less players that dominate the ball. They get it and they have to make quicker decisions. 1-2 seconds. If they don't have anything, they move it. I think in the U.S., you can massage the ball a little bit more, and you can use that athleticism and speed in one-on-one situations a little bit more and a little bit more frequently than you do in Europe. And I think that's one of the main differences. So, of course, I like to share the ball. I like to move the ball, but I like the ball in my best player's hands. So you might see a mixture of everything.
Let's take a quick break to talk about our friends at NBAstore.eu. As the Europe's official NBA online store, it has everything you need to support your favourite team, from flags to socks to on-court gear. And our listeners, Double Clutch listeners, they get 15% off any order using the code DCPOD15. That's DCPOD15 at checkout. That offer there excludes clearance and outlet items, but still, what are you waiting for? They're all the freshest gear, all 15% off. So make sure you head to NBAstore.eu and use DCPOD15 now. It couldn't be simpler. It's going to be a pretty clean slate for you this year. The Chicago Sky team last year didn't do so well, but maybe that's part of the reason you've got the job this year. But I mean, 13-21 finished outside the playoffs. So you got the job sort of at the tail end of 2018, which meant that you were able to sort of put your stamp on the team a little bit. You were there for the draft, and you were there for free agency. So what were you hoping to achieve in this off season?
I think the main thing was getting a sense of my environment. It's true that I got a chance to put together the team, and that was very important to me. Then getting a job halfway through the year or getting a job late into the year, I was able to really kind of design the roster to my liking and to the coaching staff's liking, and kind of help kind of form what our identity would be with the players that we wanted. And I think we put a good roster together, but now it's time to show and prove on the floor, because winning games in the WNBA is tougher than anything that you could imagine. Some people see 13-21 as a failure, and if we were to do that, I would see it as a failure too. But it's so hard to win games, especially with our schedule the way it is, and not as much practice time during the season. So we're going to appreciate every game we win, and we're just going to try to build on it.
Yeah, I mean, you have constructed a great shooting team, I think, is fair to say. You know, obviously you've inherited players like Ali Quigley, but drafting Katie Lou Samuelson and even Chloe Jackson, you know, they're two players. They've been to the Final Four in March Madness this year, so and they've got championship pedigree. What was your thinking behind these selections? Was it as simple as these are two, you know, great players with high upside, or were you drafting for a purpose when you were putting your vision for the team together?
I mean, yeah. I mean, everything is with a purpose. I don't move without a purpose. I don't think we move as a staff without a purpose. Our thing was we wanted to get the best player available, and the best player that was available that corresponded to how we wanted to play. That I guess complemented our roster the most. And with those two players, that's how we felt. We really thought that we had we got the best player in the draft with Katie Lou, and that's just how we felt. And so and we've been pleased with the progressions that she's made in these first 2 days. So let's see where it goes.
Cool. One thing that I had heard from, I guess, some other outlets, not necessarily something I agree with, but I thought I'd throw the question over to you. A lot of people thought that, you know, Chicago should have gone for a big player. I think on the training camp roster, you've only got 4 players that are over 6'4". You know, and it looks like you could have done with some help in terms of having some size inside, or even some bigger wing players. Did that come into consideration at all?
No. I don't really, you know, listen to what people think that we should have on our roster. Like, you know, like my whole thing was we'll see where it goes. I can't talk too much about it. Maybe I might be the dummy in the room. So we'll see. We'll
soon see. But one thing I will say is that in terms of the bigs that you do have, I think you possibly have one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion, in Steph Dolson. How important is she to your vision for the team this year?
I mean, she gives us another playmaker, another person that can spread the floor. She gives us size, and she has a unique skill set. You can say Stephanie Dolson she can't be duplicated in the WNBA. It's not a lot of players like her. So, I think she gives us a special player that's hard to match up with, and she gives us the size that we need to defend the block. So, I think she gives us a lot of things, and we just appreciate having her on our roster.
What have you made of her importance to the sort of team chemistry side of things? Because, of course, this year she's received a bit of a push. You know, I think she was at the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game earlier this year, and she's been in the new WNBA commercial. But she doesn't strike me as having a superstar ego. She seems quite a laid-back, fun, engaging kind of person. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much accurate. She has a bubbly personality. She commands the room when she walks in it because of her spirit. So we love that about her, and I think it's a part of who we want to be going forward. So we're just happy to have her and her personality and her talent. So just who she is, we're happy to have her.
Also on the team, one of the players you've inherited, but also one of the players you've worked with in Europe, Courtney Vandersloot, just won a championship in Russia, and there are a few other point guards, such as Sue Bird. She's still in the league just about. But you know, you have players like Lindsay Whalen, who retired last year. There's a few younger point guards coming through the ranks, like Kelsey Plum. But tell me, is Sloot the best point guard in the league right now?
I think so. I really think so. And we're going to put her in the situation where she proves it. But I think hands down she's the best. I think, you know, now the winning has to follow, and we're going to help her with that. But we had a great time this year in Ekaterinburg, and I had a great time watching her grow and helping her get to where she wanted to get as far as on the European level of winning the Euro League and dominating the year. And she did a great job carrying that mantle, and hopefully we can carry it into the WNBA season. Cool.
So, speaking of this season, then, what are your hopes? What are your expectations? You've spent 2 days with the team so far. I know that's not a great sample size to be able to judge the team's long-term hopes, but what are you personally aiming for out of this season?
I mean, honestly speaking, all my energy and power is, I don't have expectations, really. My energy and power is going into the next day. So after practice, I watch video of our practice. I sit down with our coaches. We come up with something to get better the next day. And then we meet in the morning before practice. Everything is about that day and that moment. And I don't think I can focus on an end game and be and not take away from the moment, So I have to put 100% of my effort into the next day of practice.
Yeah, fair enough. I know, as you've been watching those tapes, have any players sort of stood out to you that we may not have mentioned so far? Any players who sort of under the radar or just on training camp contracts or that sort of thing that you think are worth keeping an eye on in the next few weeks?
No, I mean, I think I don't know. It's a lot of players that we think that can help us a lot. I think we're gonna help Diamond get to where she's gonna be. She's a special talent.
Yeah,
and she's capable of being a dominating player, and I'm excited to see what she's gonna lead us to. I think if you talk about a player to have an eye on, I think that is a player.
Her passing was some of the scariest in the league last year, so hopefully she can continue to learn from Sloot this season, and yeah, the ball will be moving around pretty quickly this year. I've been asking a few people this, players and coaches, going into this season, there is going to be a sort of undercurrent theme where I imagine a lot of players, a lot of coaches, and perhaps some of the underground storylines are going to be about the CBA. So if there's any big injuries, I imagine the media might pick up on, how is this going to affect the collective bargaining agreement negotiations at the end of this season. From a GM standpoint, are you going to have any sort of conversations with any of your players, or is that something you think you need to steer clear from? Are you going to be working with the owners? And ultimately, how are you going to try and get your players to avoid these types of distractions?
Well, the players, we have to give the players credit. They're very professional. So I don't see any issues with that. I respect the negotiations too much, though, to comment on it. I respect what's going on, and I have an open ear and an open mind to everything, so I just keep it at that. Right now, my focus is being a basketball coach. I think in the off season, when it's time to address all those things, we can address them. But right now, my focus is tomorrow's third day training camp. So
perhaps this is going to be an answer that you try to avoid, but what are you sort of seeing as towards the end of the season? What teams do you think are going to be the cream of the crop? Because Seattle, of course, have lost the best, arguably the best player in the league for this year, and you've got an LA team that's reloaded. What do you think the sort of championship run is going to look like, and are you hoping Chicago is going to be in that race?
That's very hard, because it's hard because I want to be as honest as possible, but honesty is so boring. My honest opinion about the situation is I'm focused at tomorrow's third day of training camp. And that's the only thing I'm focused on. So I haven't even paid attention to knowing what team to beat. We have to play Minnesota on the 25th. So everything that we concentrate on against Indiana in the preseason games is going to be geared toward winning the first game against Minnesota, or improving to at least compete. And then we have 33 games more to go. So I have no idea, and I don't even think about other teams except for the team we have next. And since tomorrow's training camp, that's the only thing I'm focused on. And then we'll start gearing up. After we get our roster in place, we'll start gearing up for Minnesota. And that's as far as my attention span can go.
Fair enough. I appreciate your time, Coach.
All right, thank you, man. Have a great one.
You too. Best luck for the season.
Right.
A huge thank you to Mr. James Wade of the Chicago Sky. Really enjoyed that conversation. Make sure you stay tuned to doubleclutch.uk, the website, because in the coming weeks we are going to be posting all of our season preview guide for this WNBA season coming up. We are really trying to push WNBA hard this year, so please make sure you do like this podcast, make sure you share it out and about, and if you're listening on a specific pod player, whether it's Apple Podcasts or if it's Android, make sure you give us 5 stars, guys. It really helps us when we're trying to share this with as many people as possible, because we all know that the WNBA is entirely underserved, and our mission is to grow the game as much as possible. So please make sure you help us out in that way. And of course, if you are based in Europe, if you're based in the UK, make sure you use the discount code. If you're going to be shopping for your favourite NBA teams this year, go up to nbastore.eu and use the discount code at the checkout, DCPOD15, and that gets you 15% off your purchases. Thanks very much for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.